This is a topic that has been going into my mind for a moment until it finally hits me and how everything it works and how I can understand the mindset of the people that are involved in this. Let's talk about Bill Nye again. You all have heard about how Bill Nye is perpetuating this gender is a spectrum nonsense, so I'm not going to go into the same thing again. What I am going to talk about is something that I find freaking monstrous. It is something so evil that I am genuinely shocked that people are going to go this far to promote things that are complete and total nonsense. So Bill Nye's show is on Netflix, right? In the show, Bill Nye was talking about how gender is a spectrum instead of binary. Well, this contradicts to what is shown on the original Bill Nye TV show.
I'm a girl. Could have just as easily been a boy though, because the probability of becoming a girl is always 1 in 2.
Shock of all shock, the original TV show is also on Netflix, and guess what? The segment where the girl talks about the chromosomes? That is completely scrapped from the Netflix series. That's right. They edited a part where they're talking about chromosome and cut it out completely from the episode. In other words, Bill Nye, or the writer of the show, or anybody who is involved in the show thinks that literally revising history is a good idea. There's a video in the description of the original footage with the comparison to the Netflix version. I implore you to download it immediately before anybody starts to take it down. I mean, this is the kind of totalitarian tactic that you'd see in 1984. I mean, it's literally the Ministry of Truth, shaping history so that it can match up with the narrative. It's freaking terrifying. If it's going to be done on Bill Nye's show, what are the chances that it will be done to anything else that are more significant? And this brings me to ask on why Netflix or Bill Nye or anybody want these particular things to be removed out of existence. Why do they want these things to not exist at all? Why is this gender is a spectrum lesson should be perpetuated and shared to everybody else around the world? Well, you see, I really want to understand how these people work. I really want to understand the mindset of the people who decided that their gender is not them. So a commenter in my last Bill Nye video brought this argument to me.
Let me raise you this. I don't think it was about catering in some minuscule percent of gender fluid people or whatever the hell. It's about being free to express yourself without a hateful reaction. It's not about not facing the real world, but about being true to yourself, whatever that is. I dare say it's a concept about entitlement, wealth, or even gender.
There's nothing inherently wrong about being yourself. It's just that there are a lot of things wrong with forcing everybody to notice that you are yourself and bending everybody's behavior so that it conforms into what you really are. So let's take for a moment and imagine yourself to be a Tumblrite. I know it's hard, but imagine yourself to be someone who is frequent on Tumblr and identify as gender fluid. So what is gender fluid? Well, it's the ability to be both genders at the same time, I guess. You can be either male or female depending on the situation or when it's convenient. It's like Ranma, except you don't actually turn, you just slap the label to yourself. Why do you choose to identify as such? Well, according to the comment that I received, it's because you want to feel true to what you really are. You want to express yourself and tell the world that you are gender fluid. Alright? So how is telling people that you're gender fluid is going to affect anyone? How is that worthy of putting it on the ID? If I say that I'm gender fluid, what does that tell me about who I am? If I say that I'm a man, that is a fact that can be understood, and that is my physical characteristic, and that's how I was born. That's how people can recognize me. If someone say that they're male to female trans, that's also a fact that can be understood. Gender fluid, on the other hand, is way too vague. It's an incredibly vague and frankly useless way to describe yourself. That doesn't tell anybody anything, to be honest. And I'm still trying to figure out why people call these names. So why do people choose to identify as all of these hundreds, thousands of genders? Is it really about self-expression? Is it really about telling people what you really are as a human being? How is that an accurate way of describing who you are? Why should people use the metric of what gender they identify with in the spectrum for literally anything in their life? Why can't it be just the gender that they're born with? And most importantly, why do people think that this is an acceptable behavior without question? Shouldn't anyone have a discussion on this prior? Did I miss the meeting of when people think that identifying as non-binary or gender fluid is an acceptable thing to do? At least I can understand coming out as gay or trans or even coming out as pedo. That's easier to comprehend than whatever this is. Again, I'm still honestly baffled on all of this. I'm still trying to process on the mindset of these people. I'm just someone from the outside trying to observe the world that is literally on the other side of the planet from where I am. I just cannot believe for a second that the world on the other side is this confusing. I don't understand all of this. I try to make sense out of this. And the only way for me to make sense out of this is that we have these Tumblrites that identify as whatever gender they like, which is bizarre. But you know what? I am cool as long as you don't bother me. But unfortunately, these are Tumblrites. And my problem begins at the part where they start to bother everybody. Which brings me to the discussion of pronouns. This is where I have a problem. If you're a guy or a girl, I will use the proper English pronouns. If you're trans, I will use the proper English pronouns of the sex that you transition into. If you decided to use other pronouns like Z or Zer or they, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I can't. That is way too much of a demand. Especially considering that English is my second language and I'm not really that much of an expert on it, and I can slip. That's the thing. I can probably accidentally misgender you because I can't get used to on gendering you, pronouncing you, or something. Here's the thing. There are people with certain traits that I have to adapt to in order to actually work with them. For example, if I want to communicate to people who are deaf, I should use visual mediums like sign language, pen and paper, my phone, etc. If there are mentally challenged people, I should try to speak at them as nice as I can and not disturb them in any way, or else they'll probably get triggered and go berserk or something. But then we have these Tumblrites who ask people to correctly use their pronouns or else they'd go berserk or something. Which brings me to the conclusion that these people are mentally challenged. These people want the world to adapt to them in whatever ways they can, or else they would get triggered and get mad. However, unlike actual people with mental disorders out there, I highly doubt about them having an actual mental disorder. It seems like these people identify as these gender fluid stuff or pretend that they have some form of a mental disorder just so that people can pay attention to them. Now, I know some of you might tell me, oh, but that's not what they want. They just want to express themselves and be an individual without getting so much hate. I'm sorry. But that's not how I see it in practice. I am in some ways a practical guy. I'm concerned about your ideas, sure. I'm concerned about your intentions, but I'm way more concerned about your actions and the result of said actions. I'm concerned about the execution of the ideas that you have. Unfortunately, with me releasing a video like this and the last Bill Nye video, it resulted in a very appropriate reaction. Now, this comment that I got over here, I'm going to show it to you, not because this comment is triggering me, but I just want to illustrate what their arguments against me look like.
I'm sorry, but what are you whining about? Who cares? If it benefits one kid who doesn't feel comfortable in their own skin, it's worth the embarrassing dance number. I really don't see why the gender identity thing is even an issue at all. If you don't believe in it, I'm not even sure myself, it doesn't affect you. It's seriously the least important thing imaginable. Worried for the future? That's idiotic. You might as well piss and moan about rap music and video games. You've become the culture warrior offended by non-issues. You have become your own enemy.
Okay, that's a huge claim to make against me in the last part, but let's start off little by little. What am I whining about? Well, I'm complaining about the idea of identifying as whatever gender other than the standard default to be normalized. I personally have no issue with people identifying as whatever, but I have an issue by the time these people came into me and forced me to conform into every single one of their will, just because they're different. Why am I worried for the future? Because, well, you might need to check out what happens with Professor Jordan Peterson. He's someone who rejects the idea of gender pronouns being legislated in Canada, which unfortunately has been legislated. The law, which is called Bill C-16, basically means that if you don't use the correct pronouns, you're going to face the law. Yeah, I recommend you check out the videos on this by Sargon. Go check it out in the description with additional sources. So it's a huge attack on free speech. And yes, it might sound respectful and nice for having people to correctly identify you as the proper pronoun. It might sound like a utopian fantasy to have everybody to say the one thing that you want them to say. But if all of that is at the cost of not correctly saying your proper pronoun, even accidentally, don't you see how this is nothing but a totalitarian 1984 practice of controlling and manipulating what you have to say and how you have to say it? Free speech covers things that you might not. Let me correct that. Things that you will definitely not like. It covers people telling others of how they look like a bitch. It covers people insulting each other. It doesn't cover incitement of violence or call to action that will result in violence or death. People saying the wrong pronouns is not a call to action, and it's not a crime, or at least it shouldn't be a crime. Unfortunately, we have these people who want it to be a crime. We have people who are going to have legislations to make sure that people use the correct pronouns, or else they have to deal with the law. I am afraid of this. This is what I'm concerned about. And it's obvious that you, fellow commenter here, are misinformed of what's happening around the world. Maybe intentionally, which is not going to be dangerous for me, but it's going to be dangerous to other people who are uninformed of this matter. And the thing is, these are the same people that preach about tolerating others for having different genders or identities and be different. You know, I've had people sending me messages that are definitely not tolerant at all.
Fuck you, you stupid Indian. Bill Nye was right in his video. Fuck off and kill yourself. You live in a full war country. Go pick some cotton shit like that, like with what Indian people do. I can't stand fucking retarded ass anti-SJWs like you. You're not out for the truth anymore. I swear, I might do a video on people like you. By the way, your fan base is cancer.
I leave my DMs on Twitter open exactly for this. The screeching is hilarious. And I think I've seen this person in a chat from my last stream with Aiden. I've seen one guy who is basically triggered on the stream, and everybody on the chat is like piling him and just laughing at him for being triggered. Was it a different person? I don't really know. Anyway, I'm Indonesian. Although you're half right that me being an Indian, because I'm a Hindu, so... Okay, I'm giving you that. You're also correct that I live in a third world country. I don't pick cottons. I pick flowers in my garden. I don't identify as an anti-SJW, to be honest. I'm just who I am. I rarely use SJW as a term or have anti-SJW slapped in my identity because while it is easy to write, SJW is just too difficult to say. It's the same reason why I don't call myself a Gamergator. I don't think I have to slap that label when I can just do things that Gamergate strive for, which is ethics and journalism. I think there are good things to strive for. There are good things that you can try to actually accomplish, regardless of whether or not you're tied with the label. As for I'm not out with the truth anymore, well, when have I ever claimed to be? I'm just doing what I do in my YouTube videos, telling the world of my opinions, and shock of all shock, my opinions can be wrong. I don't seek out for the truth. I don't want to butt the system in a group collective. Again, I'm in some ways a very practical guy. I'm concerned about things and people being productive, whether it be productive on ideas or productive in content, or maybe even productive in fun and joy. When I do stuff, I try to seek out on what I can gain from it, whether it be intellectual gains, monetary gains, emotional gains, or entertainment gains. The reason why I do the Bill Nye video is because I see something very counterproductive and I state my reasons why. And doing so, it benefits me intellectually in that I can learn what Bill Nye's ideas are, even if I disagree with him. It benefits me monetarily because I can make it to a video with ads on it. It benefits me emotionally because I can vet out what I think into a healthy and productive medium. And it can benefit me by entertainment because I love making videos and having your ideas challenged is an entertaining thing on its own. I admit I don't state my reasons well. It's a 3-minute video after all. I do this because I want to have my ideas to be challenged. I want people to disagree with me. Sometimes I say things that are controversial in nature and people say that they disagree. I don't mind. In fact, it's beautiful that you can disagree with me because it means that my audiences have minds of their own and I'm not creating a cult of some sort, something that I don't want. And some people criticize my use of Haruhi Fujioka from Oranai School Host Club because Haruhi said this in the show.
Listen, Senpai, I don't really care whether you guys recognize me as a boy or a girl.
Yes, she doesn't care what you identify her as. But just right after that sentence...
In my opinion, it's more important for a person to be recognized for who they are rather than for what sex they are.
Exactly. How does your gender determine who you are or what your personalities are? Why should you identify as these special genders that are so out of the norm? Is it because you want to express yourself? Is it really how you're going to express who you really are? By saying that you're gender fluid or whatever? I'm honestly confused. I'm really confused. The only way for me to see this is that these people are counterproductive to anything at the very best. They want the world to revolve around them, not because they're actually physically or mentally damaged, but because they want to be noticed. Honestly, these people should either grow up and learn that the world doesn't always revolve around them, or seek actual mental help. The only problem is, the institution and the large mainstream media refuse to let these people grow up because these people have money and they're gonna use their influences in the government to make sure that that is indeed the case. And with the Orwellian tier level censorship going around, I am very well afraid of the future, ladies and gentlemen. Before we end this video, I'm just gonna try to end it with something more lighthearted. Huge thanks to MMK, Benjamin S, and No One of Consequence for the pledges on Patreon. You guys are fantastic. Additional shoutouts to Osukaru and Tofutiles for the Wendy fan arts with the absolutely controversial hand gesture. Another shoutout goes to Metalks for the fan art of when I do the last Bill Nye video, which is pretty amazing, although I don't remember wearing my cap. Also, WebtoonAndChill for a very gorgeous fan art. It looks pretty damn good. Thank you so much. That's all for the video today. If you like this, you can go ahead, click like button, and subscribe for more. If you wish, you can support me on Patreon. And thanks for watching.